So what if I told you that the most valuable MBA on the planet isn't taught at Harvard or Stanford, but on the bustling streets of Mumbai? Today, we're going to look at two completely different ways of solving the world's biggest problems. One way involves supercomputers and, armies of consultants. The other, well, it involves a torn notebook and maybe a cup of tea.
Okay, let's really break this down. On one side, you've got these hyper-optimized Western systems. Take the Pentagon, for instance. It's got a budget of nearly $1 trillion, and yet somehow it has failed its audit for 5 years straight. 5. And then, on the other side, you've got the system of pure human ingenuity. Like an Indian vegetable vendor who balances his books perfectly every single night in a little notebook. This, my friends, is the world of Jugaad.
So what exactly is Jugaad? People often call it a hack, but that really doesn't do it justice. It's so much more than that. It's a whole philosophy, a mindset of just incredible ingenuity that's born out of necessity. It's the art of getting things done with whatever you have, turning limitations into your biggest advantage. It's all about making things work, especially when you don't have the things you're supposed to need.
All right, let's see this mindset in action. First up, street smarts versus spreadsheets. We're going to dive into the difference between some top-down, performative strategy and the kind of pragmatic, on-the-ground intelligence that defines the art of the real deal.
Okay, check this out. It's a perfect satirical take on international relations. A huge headline drops. The U.S. president claims India's prime minister called him up personally to say they'd stop buying Russian oil. Big news, right? Well, just a few hours later, India's Ministry of External Affairs basically replies with, sorry, no missed calls here. And the very next day, India quietly keeps on buying that discounted Russian crude. It's the perfect example of performance versus pure pragmatism.
And this quote, while funny, just cuts through all the noise, doesn't it? It gets right to the heart of this practical mindset. It's not about making big, flashy statements for the cameras. It's about the bottom line. It's profit first, politics second. A smart business move is always going to win out over a fancy headline. And this kind of thinking, it's powered by a core concept we're going to call street intelligence, or SI for short. Now, this isn't something you can learn in a business school. It's this deep, intuitive gut feeling for how things actually work. Markets, money, and most importantly, people. It runs on instinct and experience, and honestly, it often moves way faster than the most complicated algorithms out there.
So what happens when you take that kind of street intelligence and you start applying it to things like technology and engineering? Well, you get something pretty special. Let's call it Jugaadtronics, the unofficial science of just, making it work.
I mean, just look at this. This table shows the efficiency gap, and it is absolutely mind-boggling. You have the Pentagon with its $950 billion budget and thousands of consultants, and it can't pass a single audit. Meanwhile, Ramesh the vegetable vendor, his tiny budget is overseen by his wife and his books are checked by his mother, and he has a 100% audit success rate. He can get 40 kilos of tomatoes in the time it takes the Pentagon to probably just schedule a meeting about buying a wrench. It's incredible.
All right, let's take on another massive challenge. This is one that has occupied some of the greatest scientific minds on Earth: fuel efficiency. NASA has poured billions, probably trillions, into optimizing rocket fuel, trying to squeeze out every last drop of performance. But what if the answer isn't in a high-tech lab in Houston?
So in one corner, you've got a NASA rocket scientist with a PhD from MIT and a multi-million-dollar budget. And in the other corner, you have an Indian auto rickshaw driver with a PhD from the University of Life, a budget of a few rupees, and a hammer. And yet, somehow, this driver seems to be breaking the laws of physics, running his vehicle on what appears to be nothing more than sheer will and a prick.
So what's the secret? What's the formula here? Well, the key thing to get is that Jugaadtronics isn't just about being clever with mechanics. The real secret sauce is this unique blend of practical knowledge and just pure, unshakable optimism. The whole system runs on a mix of physics, faith, and fumes. When a machine breaks down, you don't grab the manual. No, the first step is to give it a good, solid kick and say, there, now it'll work. And the crazy thing is, it usually does.
And all of this, it all leads us to the most powerful tool in the entire Jugaad system. It's something that no machine learning model has ever been able to replicate. We're talking about the human algorithm. This is where anti-intelligence goes head-to-head with artificial intelligence.
Think about it this way. To keep peace, the United Nations has thousands of hours of meetings, endless resolutions, a massive budget. Now compare that to an Indian train conductor. He's looking at a compartment built for 72 people that's currently holding about 150. And with one whistle and that magical phrase, adjust garde, which means please adjust, he achieves a level of conflict resolution that is faster, more effective, and frankly, a miracle.
And that is the power of what we're calling Onti-intelligence, or AI 2.0. It's this super efficient, completely decentralized human network. It doesn't need servers, it doesn't need fiber optics. It runs on memory, on social connections, and on what you could call gossip analytics. It's about knowing who needs what, where they need it, and when. And it outperforms any fancy logistics software when things get chaotic in the real world.
So after all that, after looking at street smarts and Jugatronics and this incredible Onti-intelligence, what's the main lesson here? What's the big takeaway from this whole philosophy of radical ingenuity?
Well, it really just boils down to these 4 pillars. First, it's all about getting a huge impact for a very low cost. Second, it's about building systems around people, not trying to force people to fit into a system. Third, these systems are unbelievably resilient. They actually get stronger in chaos, right when those rigid, complex systems start to fall apart. And finally, and this might be the most important one, the entire thing runs on a seemingly infinite supply of hope.
And that leaves us with this one last provocative thought. This quote just sums up the whole spirit of Jugad perfectly. Maybe the world's most complicated problems don't actually need more data or bigger algorithms or bigger budgets. Maybe what they really need is a completely different kind of genius. That street level, make it work brilliance that can fix your cable with a little tap and a curse word, and who knows, maybe even the International Space Station too.